But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Welcome back. It's still Daybreak right here on Trust TV, and we're going straight into the headlines on the newspaper front pages of the newspapers this morning. As usual, we'll begin with Daily Trust newspaper. Now, this is the major headline on the front page, and it says, Buhari to investors, capital inflow, our major challenge. Now, the riders here, it says, categorize our stolen crude as blood oil, says Kiari, and Nigeria needs help to tackle debt burden, says Adeshino. Emefiele interest rate will continue to rise. Now, these are the riders supporting the major headline on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. Details on page 4. Now, still looking at the Daily Trust, 2023 IGP puts police commanders on alert, bars Amotekun, ESN, others from election campaigns, and warns politicians against violence and hate speech. And of course, another rider here that says, Abdusalami Committee invites Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, others for peace accord. And going towards the top of the front page there, ASU, NITDA says IPPIS and UTAS fail integrity tests as reps summon SGF, AGF, others. Details of that on page 26. Now, talking politics, Governors BOT in fresh move to resolve PDP crisis. That can be found on page 25. And security matters, police kill 16-year-old artisan, injure 2 others in Jos. Details on page 7. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Yeah, up next is the Punch newspaper. The Punch, the major story this morning says, Atiku, PDP, dare Wike Makinde begin campaigns Wednesday. Lamido, some of the riders, Lamido, Olafesho, Momodu, other heavyweights, back party, preach peace. PDP Governors Forum to meet Ayu, Atiku, Okowa, say Tambuwal, Wabara. BOT members meet Wike today. Rivers Governor vows to remain in PDP, fight for equity. And just below the headline is a pictorial showing the former head of state, Abdusalami Abubakar, the Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar III, and business moguls Alaji Aliko Dangote, INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, and the Mr. Femi Otedola, after a meeting in Mina regarding the National Peace Committee ahead of the 2023 election. If you go back to the top of the page, rate hikes may trigger recession, World Bank warns FG. This is a story that can be found on page 17. And then below that, UN General Assembly Buhari woos investors, says Nigeria requires 348 trillion naira. Dogara Lawal can't intimidate Tinubu on Muslim ticket. It's a story without attribution, but this one can be found on, details can be found on page 29. Next to it, Nigeria needs help to tackle debt burden, according to African Development Bank President Mr. Akinwumi Adesina, sorry, on page 21. And just by the Punch masthead is a story saying electricity consumers pay 210 billion in 3 months. Story on page 17. Coming down, ASU appeals ruling says FG has declared war. Story on page 14. And then presidential candidates sign peace pact Thursday. This is a story that can be found on page 8. And then just below the front page picture, hoodlums ransack loot Ogun school, pupils sent home. Akiredelu films as FG denies Amotekun firearms license. Story on page 29. 245 killed in Kaduna community attacks, says Monarch. Story on page 15. And lastly, military to bombard bandits, ask residents to relocate. It's a story that can be found on page 29. So these are some of the highlights of today's The Punch newspaper.
Next, we take a look at The Nation newspaper, and it carries this major headline on the front page. Audit. Federal government takes steps to deregister ASU. And the rider here that says union accused of infractions for 5 years. And it is all blackmail, says Osodike. Now, another headline talking about politics now. Wiki to expose characters in PDP disguising as leaders. And towards the bottom of the page here, we have a story that says Otedola Ahmed Agway Momo Hassan joined Abdul Salami-led peace panel. Moving towards the top of the page now, MultiChoice rejects pay-per-view subscription model by Senate. And Atiku's economic blueprint won't fly, says Minister. And the rider here that says PDP, APC has no manifesto. And on top of the masthead there, Amotekun Corps to carry weapons, says Akeredolu. Details of that on page 3. And why Ondo Ogun clash over riverine communities. That can be found on page 6. Tambuwal is NGF interim chair as Fahimi heads FORAF, and that is on page 2. And how Lagos can achieve good governance by stakeholders. That is also on page 2 of The Nation. Now, these are the major headlines and stories on the front page of The Nation newspaper this Friday morning.
Okay, up next is This Day newspaper, where the major story is talking about the rising inflation. Where the major story is talking about the rising inflation, and it says inflation hit 17-year high at 20.52%. Higher in Ebonyi, Rivers, Bayelsa. And the story has riders. Analysts harp on need to formulate, implement policies to boost food supply. CBN, Nigerians' attitude to foreign goods impacting economy negatively. And on top of the page, okay, well, so these are some of the stories on this day, this morning. And Ibrahim, I think you should take the next paper.
All right. So the next newspaper we're going to be looking at is the Blueprint newspaper. The major headline on the front page of Blueprint: steer clear of APC, face your problem, Keamu tells Wiki. Now, that is the major story. And it comes with these riders. Says agri, security, infrastructure, poverty reduction, top Tinubu's agenda. And assures Osinbajo, Amechi, others, I'll make a campaign team. Spokesman says Emiloko, not to spite Nigerians. And I'm not quitting PDP, says Wike. Address injustice in Rivers PDP, Atiku's aide tells governor. Now, details of this can be found on page 6. That is the major headline on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper. Still talking the Blueprint, presidential governorship candidates, others to sign peace accord, says Abdul Salami. And Buhari reiterates Nigeria's commitment to energy transition plan. Details of that on page 14. IGP bans use of Amotekun, ESN, others during campaigns. That is on page 13. And police open fire on irate youth in Jos, kill 16-year-old. And on page 22, IFRS to MDAs stop contracting a tax assessment collection enforcement to consultants. And transporters protest Soludo's tax regime. Commuters stranded. That is on page 7. IGP orders arrest of late Abiola's wife for assault on orderly. That is on page 15. Towards the bottom of the front page there, 42.84 trillion naira debt. Nigeria not borrowing for frivolities, says federal government. Riders here that says Atiku's economic blueprint, photocopy of Buhari's achievements, says Lai Mohammed. Minister must apologize for lying against ex-VP. That is from the Atiku campaign. And we are fixing our party's challenges. PDP Board of Trustees Chair and Governors. Now, details of that are on page 5. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
Yeah, so Ibrahim, maybe up next we should go to the Business Day newspaper. Okay. Where the major story this morning is saying Economist Intelligence Unit predicts Tinubu's victory, says Atiku has more cause to worry. And then by the side, no early flight booking for Nigerians planning Yuletide travel. Fuel price, forex scarcity, heightened uncertainty for airlines. And below that, hospitals face high staff retention costs, no on-brain drain crisis. Explainer answers demands and what government has met. This is on page 2. And then NNPC, United States Corporation, Exim Bank in talks to finance gas projects. Details of this story can be found on page 30 of today's Business Day. Then Lastly, Otedola, 4 others join National Peace Committee, story on page 21. And like some other papers, it also carries the pictorial of the meeting of the National Peace Committee held in Minna, Niger State yesterday. So these are details of the stories on front page of Business Day this morning.
All right, well, that's a wrap on a look at the headlines this morning. And we're going straight and take a short break. When we return, we have Nuruddin Abdullah in the studio to serve as our analyst of the headlines this morning. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or
because
regional.
I have said that.
Welcome back. It's still Daybreak on Trust TV. Well, before we went on that break, we did tell you that we're going straight into the analysis of the headlines from the front pages of the newspapers this morning. And of course, we've got a friend of the house, that is the editor, 21st Century Chronicle, and Nuruddin Abdullah. Always a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure, thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for coming.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, exactly. It's first time I'm hosting him.
Really?
Exactly. We've been missing each other in the studio, but today I've got a big fish. As you said, a friend of the house.
Exactly, he's a friend of the house.
Brian, I think there are so many issues today, but I think there's a unity in terms of the issues coming from the president's commitment, speeches at the United Nations General Assembly. You know, it's a big elephant. I can see so many angles to it. But this issue of foreign direct investment seems to be the major thing that the president spoke about. The Daily Trust says he speak about that Nigeria's problem is the inflow of capital. And elsewhere, he gave some really big figure. I think the Nation newspaper carried that. So do you see this meeting actually yielding the desired result, bringing this inflow of the capital that the president so much speaks about?
I don't think so, because what the president is doing at the 77th General Assembly of the United States, the United Nations, is actually lamentation. You know, this is a valedictory appearance, yes. By next year, it will be somewhere else. Well, space or life. So it's just a matter of lamentation. You don't attract FDIs by sweet talks. No. Well, let's look at it this way. As an investor in Europe or America, Nigeria is a big market, over 200 million people, the biggest economy in Africa, with $511 billion GDP. What are those things that will attract you to come and invest? Take the issue of security, that is one. Unfortunately for the country, Osibanjo, the vice president, is leading this crusade of ease of doing business. But is it easing anything? There are multiple executive orders by the president. But what are they yielding? Look at even the issue of power. In one of the speeches, he was represented by his chief of staff, Ambassador Brian Gambari. He mentioned AKK as one of the measures he put in place to attract FDIs. At what state is that project now? So, these are the issues. Address the issues. Provide conducive environments. Investors will come. But what the president is doing now is simply lamentation. They want to see it on ground. And what is even our fiscal regime? How many forex regimes do you have? Nobody can specifically tell you. Insiders are saying there are more than 4, more than 5. Elijah Abdulaziz has 1. Mala Ibrahim has 2. She has another one. You understand? Officially, what we see is a 4.10 to $1. But he said, no, it's based on individuals. In the same UN Assembly, MFLA is saying that, okay, we'll continue to jack up the interest rate. No problem about that. But you have to look at other variables. Even the United States jack up their interest rates by 2%. Ditto United Kingdom, France, and what have you. So it's a general issue. But our own is bad. It's moving from bad to worse. And for obvious reasons. Now look at it. Can you bring your money so that you can be abducted by some people? And you have security agencies that will only be trading blames on the pages of the newspapers? Look at the Kaduna, the trend, for instance, has been grounded for almost 6 months now. The AKK, all those pipes that are being constructed, they are being ferried along the rail. The old rail, the one we have, the one we inherited from the colonial masters, the single, not the new one.
Single gauge.
The single gauge something has been grounded through vandalism. So now you take the road. Why can't Kaduna Abuja road be blocked? The trucks are not, the haulages are no longer taking the Abuja, the Kaduna Birnungwari road to the south. No, it's Abuja Kaduna. So all these things pile up. What the president needs to do is, we want to see real drastic issues on ground. Bega has absconded from the Abuja-Kaduna road for more than 1 year. Nobody used to be talking about him. The president is saying that he's going to complete this project before he leaves office by May next year. How possible is that? The white people, they do their due diligence before they come here and invest their money.
So you would say that that meeting was just like tea party?
Of course, generally, it's a jamboree, nothing else. It's a jamboree.
Well, so, but the president actually made a claim, or lots of other heads of government actually made this of debt relief for emerging nations and nations like ours. If that were to happen, I mean, first of all, is that realistic? That's number one. And if that were to happen, how long will that go in easing the economic situation Nigeria finds itself in?
No serious country will cancel Nigeria's debt. For what? When Obasanjo came in 1999, Nigeria was more or less like a pariah state. And he had economic blueprint on ground to convince the Bretton Woods, the IMF, and the likes. Tell me, what is the recurrent dismal of this administration? You can't be getting debts to be financing your recurrent expenditure, your foreign travels, your hundreds of aids, lavish lives and what have you, and go back to the creditors to ask for debt cancellation. It's over 42 billion now, and we're still counting. The budget you are proposing for next year has more than 11 trillion deficit. You are not even sure where you'll even get the money from. And look at it, how much is actually for capital expenditure. But I'm not talking about social capital, the money you are sharing to politicians and what have you. The real capital expenditure, how much is it?
But the government economists say that our economy is still fine with this borrowing. It's not too much burden.
They have been saying this in the last 4 years. What is the threshold? 42 billion. Yes, you are doing the ratio to the GDP and what have you. But why is it that even the creditors are not borrowing you? Before Ameti left, the Kaduna, Kano standard gauge has stopped. The Lagos, Ibadan, those axes have been stopped. Even the current Minister of Transport, Mr. Hassan, complained that the Chinese are not even giving us money. Why? It seems that you are not even credit-worthy.
Don't you think that could be politics or something else?
Okay, then go elsewhere and get it. It is only the Chinese that is giving you to finance infrastructure, right? And they have stopped.
So now, so now we're too broke to even borrow?
It seems. I didn't say it. I mean, he said it. The Minister of Transport said it. The Minister of Finance said it. That's why, you know, you are doing all manner of bonds, treasury bills, and what if you look at your balance sheet. You refuse to, because you are borrowing to finance corruption.
Okay.
There was PIA. Remove subsidy. You are spending 6 trillion on subsidy. The subsidy that even top government functionaries are questioning.
Wow, that's quite interesting.
Yeah,
but,
we're still sticking with the economy, but with a little bit of a political undertone. There was this back and forth that's ensued between the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate and, of course, the government, saying that the PDP candidate giraffed their economic blueprint, so to speak. The blueprint that you said is actually non-existent, but they said that he stole their own blueprint.
Their own ideas.
For the economy. How do you see that panning out?
Okay. The PDP presidential candidate stole their own blueprint.
Yes.
Okay.
The current
Okay,
blueprint.
where did they get their blueprint in privatizing the NNPC? In 2019. The present, the PDP candidate, Atiku Abubakar, part of his campaign promises, particularly in revamping our economy, was he is going to privatize NNPC because NNPC has turned into a behemoth, a corrupt, infested public corporation. They use that against him, particularly in the north, you know, because of the higher illiteracy rate out of him. That if Atiku wins, they say the NNPC. You know that in Hausa, he was still the NNPC. 2 years after the election, they won. What have they done? I think, I saw the minister yesterday was talking that Atiku there is no jinx to break, you know, and all manner of them. But look at the statistics. It's clear. You don't need to be a professor of economics to understand this. Look at our interest rate regime. Look at the inflation. It rose 17 years higher. What is the per capita GDP? What is the consumer production index? Okay, don't even go, we're speaking grammar. How much was the bag of rice in May 2015, and how much is it now? How much, you understand, we're talking about macroeconomics. How much was fuel in May 2015, and how much is it now? So, you know, it's a simple thing. They can speak politics, but among the presidential candidates.
But you know, they will say this inflation is not peculiar to Nigeria. It's a global.
But our own, when did our own start? When did the bag of rice move from 8,500, the biggest Thailand rice we buy in May 2015? When did it move to 20, 27, 28? Now it is 37, 38 in northern part of the country. I don't know what obtains in the south. When did that start? Okay, all other countries are jacking up the prices of their gasoline, right? That's why we did our own. It's a reality. You remember, I remember an interview the president granted to other channels. He was asked these questions. What was the response? All I know, you should go back to farm. So it's a reality. It's just a okay. The value of the naira. By May 2015, how much was it officially? About less than 160.
Well, that's a long list, but maybe let's go away from the economy to politics now. The Punch newspaper this morning led with the story talking about the never-ending, so to speak, feud between the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar and the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike. It says Atiku, PDP, there, Wike, Mike, they begin campaigns Wednesday. How do you see, this issue? Looking at the fact that all efforts, all attempts seems to have failed in trying to end this problem.
My take, usually, is this: PDP has to move on. And from not only their body languages, from the decision they took recently, it means that they are ready to go into the campaign without Wike.
But don't you think that will be costly?
Okay, well, how? That's what people say. How?
Well, a lot of people believe that there's this financial muscle that actually comes with
the votes from
with Wike, and he has some sway in the South.
Let's just not assume. Rivers is not the richest oil state. Akwa Ibom is. I don't know.
But they make
Udom Emmanuel.
They make more noise.
Is the president, is the chairman of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council. The vice president, presidential candidate of the PDP, Okoa, is the governor of Delta State. The richest is Akwa Ibom. Delta, even before Rivers. So I don't think we're talking about the monetary issue. Don't forget, former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, was governor of Rivers for 8 years. He defected to APC in 2013. He was made the DG of the campaign in 2015 and 2019. Did he deliver Rivers to APC? No. Therefore, it's money. And there are other ways and means for people to get that money.
So basically, you are in line with those who actually believe that Wike is overestimating his importance to the PDP.
Do you know something? I don't know. Politically speaking, look at the electoral value of the people surrounding him. They are the same people. They are not even sure of delivering their state to the PDP. We're talking about Mr. Otom. The bishop in Makodi has sent the man packing. He's either in Rivers, Abuja, or London. He is not even sure of his senatorial ticket, not to talk of his candidate. Are you talking about Makinde? Makinde, unlike the other governors, he's facing a re-election. Tinubu is a Yoruba man from the southwest. Even Wike himself, they were talking about power shift. The guy Wike sponsored to inherit him, to succeed him, they are not only from the same geopolitical zone in Rivers, they are from almost the same local government. If he has such political weight, he should have exhibited it at the national stadium by getting the.
But he believed that convention was skewed against him, and are you colluded with Atiku and Tambuwal to manipulate the things?
That is politics. It's simply that shows his even naivety. It means that he's politically a novice up to now. Okay, in 2019, the same thing happened. Politics is not gra-gra. And again, he is like, you said, you started just recently at a local level. By 1990, Yochiayu was elected Senate President. By 1990, Atiku Abubakar was a presidential aspirant during the just convention of the SDP. They didn't start last year.
But time changes. Also, power configuration can also change.
Exactly. And that, we have seen that, Mala Abdulaziz at the National Stadium. He wouldn't have lost out if actually he is in control. It's just like Abdullah Adamu. Yeah, he has been into politics since before we were born and whatever, blah, 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 blah. But when he came, clearly he wasn't in touch with reality. for the fact that Atiku was elected as the PDP's candidate in 2019, in 2023, almost 20-something years after he left power. It means that he's in tune with reality. And you know, he's in charge. But I don't know. Like I said, you know, what the PDP did, vote of confidence in Ayu, all the NEC members, the formation of the PCC, and the Atiku's response simply means that they are moving ahead. You know, they can't be bogged down. I think that's the reality.
Well, so I don't know if let's look, you know, maybe before we wrap up the review, look at the FG and ASU issue. You know, the Nation, the lead story of the Nation newspaper is talking about the move by the federal government to prescribe the association, talking about the union's failure to properly audit its accounts. What do you make of that?
All these things they're trying to do has been done before. By the colonialists, by the military regimes, ASU survived. Let them go. Unfortunately, they are bad students of history, particularly the people at the totem pole of power. Yes, the military succeeded in cannibalizing the labor, NLC, TUC, and what have you. But they could not when it comes to ASU. And why? Yeah, labor, everybody can be there. But as you know, they're intellectuals. So let them get that into their head in the first place. And again, it simply means that the government is not interested in resolving the issue. Even this court order, they go to, not even industrial arbitration court in this matter. They go to a court and got a court order. Okay, ASU has filed a stay of execution and they appeal the judgment. Let them not forget. IBB tried all this in his 8 years. You remember some weeks ago, the electricity workers went on strike. TC and what have you, you know, and they shut down the grid. IBB did it. He arrested 9 top. But you are reinstated by the court. What I think the presidency should do, they should just, and again, you know, we are facing election. Let them continue this way and see. It's simple, go back to the drawing board. Government is a continuum. They are now in the US calling for debt cancellation. Federal government is owing ASU. Is it because when Jonathan administration or Eradua or Obasanjo got money from the Bretton Woods and now you'll come and say, you know, you will not pay? You are seeking for renegotiation? He's not talking about renegotiation. He's talking about cancellation. So it's just begging. But unfortunately, you know, the Buhari's regime and attitude sometimes is just, they're just unnecessarily arrogant on issues that they don't have control on. The students are at home for almost 7 months now. They have been at home previously for more than 1 year.
Well, so it seems to be a non-ending saga with different twists almost on a daily basis. Nuruddin Abdullah, it's been a pleasure having you on the newspaper review segment as usual.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I hope to see you more.
Usually refer to him as a co-anchor right here on the show because he's here almost all the time. So thank you very much. We do appreciate that.
It must be my pleasure.
All right. So it's still Daybreak on Trust TV. Take a short break, and when we return at the top of the hour, the show continues. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.